the Agile brand.
Hey there, it's your pal, Bonnie Habian, and welcome to the Worth Knowing podcast. If you like a real-life story that features grit, grace, and a whole lot of gumption, then you're in the right place. Get ready to hear from some courageous women who talk about how pivotal, teachable, aha moments have reshaped their confidence and delivered opportunities they never imagined. It didn't happen by chance, of course. They figured out new, sometimes uncomfortable ways to put themselves out there in a way that shouts, they get it. You'll hear intimate stories with actionable takeaways and some very secret sauce. Because everyone has an important story worth knowing. And you know what? The world needs it, and you deserve it. Today, we have a truly remarkable young guest. Joining us is Shirah Benarde, a visionary entrepreneur who, at just 16 years old, invented a groundbreaking product and appeared on the Shark Tank. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Yes, she was a CEO at 16, and she's already very old, only 22, CEO of a company she created. It was called Nightcap. Now, Shirah's journey was a long one, from being a teenage inventor to what is now a successful business owner, because she had to really embrace a lot of passion and grit. We know that a journey requires tremendous determination and creativity, especially when you're an entrepreneur. And I can't even imagine being one at the tender young age of 16, but she's got a story for us, and we're going to dive in and find out a lot about the unique details of her journey so far. So welcome, Shirah. It is just such a pleasure to have you, because I love the energy of young people in general, but I certainly love young entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm definitely a young entrepreneur and excited to share a story.
Yeah. So, we know that you were officially, at 16 is when everything kind of came together, but there's a really personal story here. And I think that's what's so interesting. There's a personal thing that happened that made you really say, you know what, there's a need for this product, and I'm taking this mission on myself. So would you give us a little bit of a flavor first about, how you've grown up, if you've always had this kind of entrepreneurial flair, but what happened to bring that entrepreneurial action together with, you know what, I'm going for this because this is not something good?
Yeah. So I grew up, watching my parents in 9 to 5s. And I had an idea that I wanted to have my own company. I wanted to work for myself because of what I saw them do and how they had to follow someone else's schedule. So at a very young age, probably about 8 years old, I was aware that,
You were.
I'm probably not going into the same kind of field as they are.
Well, that's really young. Sure, that's really, really young to know that. I mean, that's good for you.
Yeah, I definitely had like a feeling and an idea that it wasn't for me. I wasn't a great student. I really didn't love people telling me. I wasn't great, when teachers or just people like authorities would tell me what to do. And like, I just wasn't.
Oh, your poor parents.
I mean, I wasn't horrible, but I didn't like it. So that led me to striving for something more than working for somebody. But I didn't know what that meant. And when I was 16, I had a friend, an older friend, that went out and was roofied at the bar. And then a couple weeks later, I went to bed and I thought of this idea in a dream when I was sleeping. So the idea came to me, and it was a scrunchie that also had a drink cover inside. When I was sleeping, it just kind of like formed in my head. I just saw like a vision of it, a picture of it, and I took note of it when I was sleeping. And I'm not someone to normally remember my dreams. It's not very common for me. So when this came to me, I was like, you have to remember this in the morning. And so when I woke up, I went downstairs. I sat down with my dad and I was like, I think I have a really good idea that could save a lot of people. And he really loved it. And my parents are entrepreneurs. So my dad saying that, giving me that validation meant a lot to me, because he didn't really have that experience. But he sat down, he said, it's either nightcap or top hat. So immediately we went with nightcap. And then from there, I ran upstairs, grabbed my mom's pantyhose and a scrunchie from my room, created a prototype to really show him what I was talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. He could have made or broken your thoughts right then. Maybe, maybe not. You seem very driven. And it probably would have said, I'm not listening to him anyhow. I'm going to go do my own thing. But the fact that you have that kind of support and immediately you want to bounce it off of someone and someone's like, that's a great idea. It's not going to cost a whole lot, right? You think about all the little elements around it and how fun it is to create the name. How fun was that? Just trying to think of what are we going to call this, right? And then I love the story of how you grab your mom's pantyhose and the scrunchie and you kind of, and I've, looked at the product. It's very cute. It's practical. It just kind of checks all the boxes. So I think it's amazing that you somehow probably got this sign and maybe it's just trusting the universe. I don't know, but something definitely came to you and then gave you the confidence along with your dad and mom saying, we're going to embrace this. That really gave you a great start.
Yeah, I think trusting the universe, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
it's always been a little bit of a gut feeling to me. Like, you can wake up and say, I had this idea and well, I don't really feel like acting on it, but something told me you need to go make this right now. And I was so young that I had nothing to lose. So, I was like doing my homework and then also like going to file for a patent. And
that alone is daunting, right? That alone is daunting. And I just been reading this book by the Hint co-founder, actually I shouldn't say that, Hint founder, Kara Goldin, and it's called Undaunted. And so much of it is about that kind of don't let those fears and things kind of, really stop you. So I can't imagine being 16 and you having to kind of think about, and I've got to go all this patent stuff. At any point, did you just say, whoa, it's too much. I need to be out having fun with my friends at parties? No, what drove you through those obstacles?
I think I was just embracing that I didn't know what was going on because I knew, I'm 16.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, I have this idea. Why not go file for a patent? Why not call up a seamstress to make more prototypes and see where this could go? I think I always had like a feeling that I was supposed to do entrepreneurship and start a business. And this was the idea. I just knew it. So I think that gut feeling was telling me to just continue and embrace the fear of it all or the unknown. And I've learned so much along the way, but in those beginning stages, I also feel that when you're young, you're or not very, but you're more delusional than if you were older. Like when people ask me about Shark Tank, which I'm sure we'll get into
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yes, we will.
Yeah, like as a 17-year-old stepping into the tank, you're like, what could go wrong? And I just kind of embraced it more. So when you're 16, when you're 17, you don't think of what could go wrong as much.
You don't. So you don't have as much fear, which is a good thing, right? It's when we get older and we've lived through some of the experiences and we're like, you know what? This could happen. That could happen. This is going to cost money. What if they don't? No. So you're really blessed, I think, to be able to have that kind of mentality of what do I have to lose? Let me ask you from a creative perspective, and I imagine anyone that has gone through an entrepreneurial anything, that creativity and how it iterates and morphs is very exciting. So perhaps you started out with the concept of, you know what, I think it should fit this way. And then you come up with another idea of, oh my gosh, what if we put the straw this way and it's washable? And, wait a minute. Are we going to use a scrunchie on the hair? But I want to make sure it doesn't get hair on the drink. So all of those different challenges and obstacles also provide so many opportunities. So kind of take us through this point. You must have invested something, a little bit of money of something into this kind of prototype. Then you go through the patent. Take us through the steps of where you end up to Shark Tank.
Yeah. To Shark Tank, we applied online and, we just kind of gave it our best shot. We had a we had a product that could save a lot of people, and we were young founders and we loved the show. And so we just ended up getting called back. This was back in 2020, and 40,000 people applied that year.
That's crazy.
They pick about 100 people maybe to go on, and then you don't always air. So we went on the show. I was 17. My brother was 21. We quarantined for 10 days because it was COVID. And then we went out there on the 10th day and we pitched the Sharks. It honestly could not have gone better.
I know. I watched the whole thing. Lori Greiner, is that how I say her last name? I don't watch the show all the time. I watched a little bit, but it was like, hey, I'm in. And so I can't imagine. Well, take me back first though, before you get there. You get a call, or I assume, how do you find out you've been selected?
Yeah, they give you a call that you've been selected for the next round at least.
Oh gosh, what a process.
I think it goes from like 40,000 to 1,000. So they narrow it down. But that first call, I had a gut feeling. I said, I really think this could work out. And now to this day, people, if I talk about Nightcap, they say, you should go on Shark Tank. And I'm like,
hey, I've been there and done that. That was, 4 years ago. So I did listen. And I think at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, you go through, you get the prototype. I assume by the time you go to Shark Tank, do you have kind of the packaging down? You had sold, I believe you had said, was it like 60,000 in sales by that point?
yeah. So we had $68,000 in sales, and 40,000 of those were from a TikTok video.
Oh my gosh, one TikTok video.
Yeah. So we had blown up on TikTok before stepping in the tank, which really helped us because when we were on the show, we were able to show, this has traction. People want this product. And I mean, nobody wanted it in the beginning. And we started making these videos and it was resonating with people. And people were like, this is a product. Like, how has no one thought of this before? It was one of those.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, every time we would post something, it would go viral. And that really helped us with, obviously, as founders.
Why do you think? Why? Would it just resonate with people? I mean, your age and you guys just seem to really have an in and understand kind of what is going to drive that sort of reaction. But what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think with social media in general, I think it's attributed to the message and the hook. So
the message and the hook. Okay.
Our attention span is 1.7 seconds now, and I think it's gone down. So if you take any longer than that to get a video started, people are already missing you. I think with our product, it was just new, fun, exciting. And also we didn't talk about drink spiking before. Like 5 years ago, before our company was out, people really didn't talk about it. You didn't really know. Maybe you have this friend that's been roofied. They probably weren't sharing that story. And I think
you're right.
Yeah, I think bringing up the conversation, people saw the product. They're like, what is this? And then it clicked. It's like, oh, this is for something that I've been affected by, but I probably haven't told anyone. So it really brought up the conversation. And I think that's what made it such a viral product. And what continues to make our business really successful is that people really do experience the problem and we just have no idea.
No. Yeah. And I think you're right. I do think there's almost a little bit of a taboo there. I mean, I think about it now and I've heard from a friend, so-and-so the other night was, in a bar and somebody slipped something into her drink. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. But you don't go out there and talk about it in a group setting. So I think you probably have brought a really good problem to light and also a little bit of a solution where you can do something very easy. It's an affordable product. You're able to take that and, put that easily to protect yourself. And it I would imagine it definitely does stop some folks from, whomever those bad people are. I mean, what are they going to do? They can't, it ruins everything in that respect, which is a good thing. Take me through a little bit of the tipping point. There's, a tipping point of some sort, and maybe it was a collaboration of different things that happened for you that when you get out there and you've created this product, you now have the momentum with the TikTok videos. You also have the momentum from being on Shark Tank. Is there kind of a formula that you can share with some of the other folks who are listening who are, thriving, want to be successful entrepreneurs? People would love to hear a little bit about those elements that came together for you.
Hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a formula. I think it's obviously different for every company, but today we really want like we want human connection, and we want to know what ingredients and what companies we're consuming. So for a lot of us, we buy products where we know who the founder is. And so if you're wanting to start a business, my biggest suggestion is to tell your story and share who you are as a person, because people are really buying from you. Like, you definitely have a good product, but if you can also get behind the camera and talk about why you started it, what problem you're solving, or the struggles you went through to get this product on the market, literally anything and everything about yourself, that goes so much further. And people really recognize they feel like your friend, and when they can feel like your friend and feel like they know you, they 100% have more buying intent for your product, whatever it is. So finding like connection through your story is my best piece of advice. That's really what escalated Nightcap for us. When I had left, I was going to University of Tampa after Shark Tank. I went to college, and then when I went there for a year and a half, and I decided I'm just going to go full force into the company. I don't need to really do this right now, maybe later. So I jumped in full time on the company, started making videos of myself talking about what is drink spiking? How did I start this company? How did I think of the idea? Like, what was the prototype process? Everything and anything. And I still do it to this day when I can. And just like letting people in on the story has really just given the product familiarity and comfort in a way. Like, even people that find me on TikTok and Instagram, they'll reach out and they'll share their stories, and they feel like, you know, they feel like we're a voice for them or like a shoulder. And that's part of our job too, is like being there for people and giving them resources and stuff like that. So it's really important to be on the other side and show your face of who you are, what's going on, and what you're putting into it.
So you never looked back, it sounds to me. I mean, and I'm going to get into it a little bit. I want to understand some of the obstacles, because there has to be some obstacles, like in anything that you developed. But when you left school and you said, okay, I'm all in, I'm going to just do, and those videos are a lot of work. All of this stuff is not easy. So, I mean, you must have been, something was driving you. And I'm curious to what that was. Did you really just see a passion that this is going to be successful? I know it's needed. What were like the two or three things that allowed you to not look back, to leave school and to say, I'm all in?
Yeah, well, easily two, three things. I looked at what I was learning in school versus what I could be doing. And for me, it was a problem of people are getting roofied. People, period. Like, people are getting roofied. This is a problem. And I'm sitting in class, not really benefiting as much as I would helping other people. So it was kind of like that mindset of I could be helping people and I'm not. So that was number one. And then number two, it was just like college. I think there's like a stigma that we place on like high school students. It's like, get into your dream school and, work super hard. And then nobody warns us about what actually happens in college. And there's so much peer pressure and partying and distractions. There's so much of it that for me, I felt like I was just partying. Like, honestly, I just felt like
Yeah.
I wasn't learning as much as I was socializing, and I had already gotten my all of the socializing I needed, out, and I didn't need to keep doing that lifestyle. I didn't want to. I didn't feel like it was good for me. So, I left.
Yeah, well, I'm laughing. You think something drives you differently. There's some things where people, me, I'm a constant learner. I love to learn. I love to meet people. I love to connect. You are built a little differently. You're built for this. You are built for this. You know what? I am just going for what makes me happy. I can go and, do what I need to do and, kind of really make this work. And I think that's a little bit of a different mindset. So let's talk about that mindset, because that's a very strong mindset you need to have, especially when you have obstacles to face. Let's talk about a few of the obstacles. People think the entrepreneurialism thing sounds great. I agree. We started out, I don't want to work for anyone. I want to do something more fun. I don't want someone telling me what to do. But there's some sacrifices and things, that people don't think about that comes along the way. What are those things that are hard that people need to understand?
Yeah, well, sacrifices, if you want to talk about that, I want to start there. I think you have to want what you're creating so badly, because sacrifices are like huge in entrepreneurship. You lose a lot of friends. I think people don't understand what you're doing. And so you just end up losing people, and you become kind of isolated. Like when you're working towards something that a lot of people don't get, you are, like they say, entrepreneurship is lonely. Like it is, it really is.
Hmm.
That is true. I would say that's true. But if you can have a small circle and build with them, even if they're not a part of your business, like that's really important. Or like surrounding yourself with a couple people or like family members that get it. It's super important because it is lonely. So sacrifices is huge. You have to be open and passionate about what you're building and where you're going.
Yeah, so much to a point that you can't imagine your life without it, right? So you were not the first person that I've interviewed. This is a common thread I'm finding with some of the women. I had a young girl who was a pilot, and she and her mom were like, made history flying Southwest together. It was a beautiful story, right? But she told me she lost some relationships over that because people, maybe couldn't understand the commitment she had. And she's okay with it, but I could definitely see that that hurt her a little bit because she went for her dream and not everybody understood that when they're out going, wherever on a Friday night. And she's like, well, I got to fly 3 days to whatever. She lost some folks. And I think it's important that you find your tribe. And that's what they told me during that show. Find your tribe. And it sounds to me, you're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, obstacles. For me, my biggest obstacle was myself, because I was so young that I didn't have the confidence to pick up the phone, call someone, send an email. I didn't know what I was doing. So that stopped me from accomplishing a lot of things. And even now to this day, the stuff that I get done, like the partnerships that I build, it's all about the conversations that I have or the emails that I send or the customers that I talk to. And like, I did not know how to do any of that before. I knew it was in me, but I was just so young that I like didn't let myself, I just wasn't, I was insecure and I didn't get it. But you kind of learn it as you go.
I read something that you were in a Forever 21 store and you walked up to the CEO. So I don't know. The first thing I thought is, how is this young girl feeling that confidence? So that was either you saying, just do it and deal with the consequences later, or something gave you a little bit of that confidence to do. I want to hear that story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't in a Forever 21. So I was at a conference in Las Vegas, and the CEO of Forever 21, she was speaking on this panel. And she was talking about women empowerment. There were three other ladies on the panel. They were like so awesome. And we sat like right in the front, and it was a huge room. And I go to a lot of events like this, and I realize like most of the time they take the speakers and the CEOs, and they put them in the room and they lock them in the room, or they signal to you, these people are way better than you. You can't talk to them, right? So once they speak, they're gone.
Right.
And so
Right.
for no reason too, like I'm sure they want to talk, but they make it this like pedestal thing. So at this conference, I noticed that the lady had, I mean, not lady, her name's Winnie. she had walked off stage and she was standing there with the other speakers. And I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to go say something. I was with my friend at the time and she was like, do it. She encouraged me. Let's,
Okay, good. You had your tribe saying, just do
yeah.
it. Just do
She
it,
was,
Shira.
yeah, she definitely held me. She's like, go, like, you got this. And I was, you're right. And we walked up to her and I was like, you did so amazing up there. And I had a nightcap in my purse. So I gave it to her. I said, this is a nightcap. It's, a scrunchie doubles as a drink cover. She's like, I have a daughter. She's like, let's get this in the stores.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How you must have just wanted to cry after that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about me is like, I've been promised a lot of things that don't happen. So in that moment, I was very excited, but I never want to be like, oh, this is done. Like we're in Forever 21, like, so I don't get my hopes up when someone says something like that.
Right. Because she's in a kind of a moment where, and again, as an entrepreneur, you get this. She can't go anywhere. She's right there. You're saying, oh yeah, that's great. I love it. Call me sometime.
Sure. Yeah.
How do you make that connection after,
Yeah. So I grabbed her email and then I think I followed up like once or twice and she connected me with whoever. And from there, we got into all 400 stores, but it started with that conversation. And even to this day, like she is the sweetest person ever. I like could, if I wanted to, I could like pick up the phone and be like, hey, can you help me with this? She like came on my podcast. We talked for half an hour. She's so amazing. And like, I just have nothing about great things to say about her. She's just the best.
Wow, you know what? And she, it's a lot though. This show is about and for women. So to me, I think if one woman can help another woman, that just really is a wonderful thing. You talk about the power of connection.
Yeah.
I am telling you, just the amount of knowledge I've gotten from the people I speak with on this show has been amazingly helpful. So if we all help each other a little bit, you just imagine how we can all rise, right? When one of us rises, we all rise. And that's what I think is beautiful. And I would say as well, if I was kind of someone in her level and I see someone young have this amazing product, that's a wonderful story.
Oh, no.
And that is something very needed. And you're talking about the power of connection right there. And that was a huge connecting moment. So now you've got that. Was that another one of these things that kind of came in to help you with the tipping point? So now you've got stuff in Forever 21. You've done Shark Tank. You are out there doing your TikTok videos. What else kind of pushed things along for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think social media has really pushed things along since the beginning. And, those viral moments, like, having those viral moments where like this week we just did out a video on Reels. So it's at 18 million views right now. And like every time I look at my phone, it's like people are commenting on it and engaging with it and it's just growing. And then our account's growing and it just like shows you how many people haven't discovered the product and like how much room there is to grow. But I'll tell you something really fun that has been keeping me busy is we got approached by an assembly member in California about a year and a half ago. And there was a huge drink spiking problem over there in Los Angeles. And so they hopped on a Zoom call and I think I was like 20 or something. I was like 20. I was nervous. And it was me and a bunch of older male politicians. And I'm like, I am not a politician. Like that was what I was telling you.
I don't know what Shira would be saying in that room, especially if they said something she didn't like.
Yeah.
I mean, right? That's just definitely it's just an interesting kind of thing going on there.
Yeah. But I think you can look at a situation like that and really scare yourself. So I tried to just focus on the problem and what we were trying to solve. And we hopped on the call and we really my brother and I just really talked about drink spiking and like it can happen to men and this is the drugs that they use and this is why test strips, only test for these certain drugs, just educating them on all these different things. And they ended up passing a bill that every bar in California would require test strips. And for the longest time, we were like, this is so weird. They never, like, this is a reactive solution. It's not preventing anything from happening. It's reactive.
You're right. It's kind of after. What did they spike me with, right? Yeah, that's what you're saying. Like, as opposed to allowing that to even happen.
Right. And like,
right?
Drink covers are a deterrent as well. Not only do they protect your drink, but they tell the bad actor that like you're aware of the problem and you're not one to be messed with. And about a month ago, in our email, it's like, hey, everything about drink spiking comes through our email, and it's like Law A, B, California bill passed unanimously. So we helped get the law passed, and every bar starting in June of 2025 is going to require drink covers in the whole entire state of California.
That, I mean, talk about purpose, and you've become a thought leader. So you have to kind of see that, right? In some respects, it's great you're an entrepreneur, but in some ways, you've also become a thought leader, which has kind of, I think, provided a lot of momentum for your product as well, which is amazing.
Yeah,
So are you
absolutely.
going
Yeah.
to provide those drink covers?
Yeah.
Or are
So,
they like their own drink covers?
oh yeah. So like speaking of things that keep you going, that's definitely one of them. And yeah, I mean, essentially, yes, that's what we've been working on is providing them. But it'll be in 6 months from now. So we have a lot of moving parts, but this is definitely something that, you know, I never expected to happen. So, like, legislation is a whole other game, and California really starts a lot of these trends. And so, you never know where else this will end up, but it's really cool to be able to, 5 years ago, surprise everyone, start the conversation, and now, like, we're this far in and like we're really actually tackling the problem.
No, I think that's really something that you've been able to bring to the forefront. Just you talking about certain psychological things, and you're right. You are now it's not just a piece of material. You are now telling the perpetrators, those who are, the criminals, hey, you know what, we're onto you. And you're making it harder, and you're making them not take advantage of people being vulnerable or kind of like unsuspecting, right? Now they're onto it. So all of those various things have taken us to a different level. And I think the awareness alone factor has probably, been a wonderful thing for societies, communities, for young girls. But also you have a product that probably in some respects, as we would say, solves a problem, right? And I think any entrepreneur, and everyone I speak with who comes on the show, is very specific. If you can find something that solves a problem, that is going to be your best litmus test. And I'm sure you agree. And so I'd like to hear, one of the things I always like to leave my listeners with is to ask my guest to provide them a couple of really bits of insightful, actionable advice. So I want to take advantage of your young mindset, but also very mature in its approach. Give us 3 to 5 actionable items you would advise other young entrepreneurs to look at, to leverage, to consider when they are starting out on something that they also have a dream about.
Yeah, I think a lot of us stop because of other people. And I think my mindset in the very beginning is like, I just think about how often are you actually thinking about other people instead of yourself? Like we're all so consumed in ourselves that there's not that much percentage of our brains that are constantly thinking about that embarrassing moment from 2021. I think we think that the moments are so much bigger to other people than they actually are when like we are all actually just thinking about ourselves all the time. So if somebody else is stopping you because you're afraid of what they think, like that's not really a real reason because they're not thinking about you.
Right, right.
So that's number one. I think, they say don't care what people think, but like truly it's your life. And if you have a gut feeling and you want to do something, that is there for a reason. Like we don't all have that. So if that's like a calling, in my opinion. And you're supposed to follow those gut feelings and those like desires and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and I think and you really had a strong one. So you're saying, follow it, take it to wherever it leads you, and kind of put blinders on. Don't listen to the naysayers, right? I mean, that's a big one. What else would you kind of throw in there?
yeah, and I would throw in there that my career's never escalated by staying stagnant or being comfortable. Every time I've been rewarded or I've accomplished something big, we've put ourselves in the most uncomfortable situations because that's what entrepreneurship is. It's like it's walking into rooms
Right.
that you at the beginning don't think you belong in. You have to do that 100 times over again until you feel like you belong there.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes people say the biggest thing you can do or the best thing you can do is to feel uncomfortable and walk into something before you're 100% ready. So that seems to be another one that you've kind of put out there, right? So don't listen to the naysayers. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. That means you're growing, and that's not necessarily bad.
Yeah. I would also say the last thing I would say too is, speaking of being ready, like we're never, once you realize like you're never going to be ready for anything, is when you become ready for everything. So we're not ever ready for situations or walking up to certain people. Like it's usually going to be scary. It's usually going to be intimidating. But once you do that so many times, it's like exposure therapy. Like once you do it so many times, you're going to be able to talk to anyone, pick up the phone, call anyone, like start conversations, walk into rooms. Once you know how to overcome the intimidation and stop putting things on a pedestal, you won't be scared of it anymore. And honestly, if you are scared, I think everything good is on the other side of fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go for it.
Yeah, and you are living proof of that. And I just cannot wait to continue to watch your journey where you are in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I have a feeling you are not even at the beginning. So I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing not only information about a great product, but also really it's a good mission. And you're making a huge impact. And you can learn more about Shirah by following the links in the show notes. So please share the podcast with others if you think they would like to learn more about Worth Knowing Wisdom, and leave a comment on Apple or Spotify if you enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Worth Knowing. If you'd like to learn more about our guest story or connect with them, you'll find their details in the show notes. Remember, the path to Worth Knowing is paved with courage and insight. Stay inspired, keep striving, and continue to make a difference. Then, you must make sure to share it with others. Until next time, keep chasing those aha moments, my friends. The ones that deliver results and motivate and teach the world. Worth Knowing is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. The Agile Brand.